I can inherit from more than one ancestor, more than one parent. But that gets us into some possible problems, we call it diamond inheritance, where if I'm sitting down here and I take from these two classes, and those two classes had the same parent, now all of a sudden at some point I've got a problem. I don't know which, when I'm looking at this one, I've got a duplicate over here looking at this one, because both of them inherit from the same parent. And so I don't know which one, which value. They may be actually different, so I don't know which one. Here's a case in point. Hybrid pickup. Maybe it's got electrical components as well as gas components. It's an automobile. Now, engine. What are the settings for it? Well, maybe some pieces of both. Right? And so we have to be very careful to allow us to specify where did it actually derive from. When we talk about inheritance, there are two key concepts. One is specialization. Two relationships. One is specialization. And the specialization one is always phrased, or can always be phrased, by a very key phrase called ISA. In fact, many times in the literature you'll see it written as ISA. Okay? And it simply means ISA. A pickup is an automobile. Right? A duck is a bird. And this may be a loose one, but student is a person. Sorry. Okay? Clear what ISA is? There's a direct inheritance thing there that I belong to the class person. On the other hand, another kind of relationship that is also inheritance, containment, aggregation, or composition, all three of those words mean the same thing in this context. And it's defined, or it can be clarified by saying has a. Has a. An automobile has a engine. So there is a relationship, inheritance relationship, but it's also from the notion of a has a, or container. Containment. Many languages, most notably VB.NET, has a container class. There's a special kind of a class that facilitates this sort of inheritance. Containment. And if you can say automobile has a engine as opposed to automobile has a pickup, or pickup has an automobile, doesn't make sense, does it? But when we say automobile has an engine, now all of a sudden it makes some sense. So those are two tests, litmus tests, if you will. Am I talking about containment, or am I talking about specialization? Is that clear? Polymorphism. We all like to bandy object-oriented terms around, and here's another one of them. Polymorphism. Many forms. The issue here, one I've talked about before, ability for similar objects to respond differently to the same message. Huh? I thought this was programming. Messages? What are we talking about? What's a message in terms of programming? What is a message in terms of programming? What?
Is input work? Input.
Input.
From another function.
Usually not. Not data. A message is a function call. A message is a function call. Go do it. That's a function call, right? I've got some parameters associated with it. Okay? So, do it, that's a message. start, as the example in the slide says. Start, that's a message. That's a function call, some action to be taken. It has associated with it, generally speaking, some set of data. Okay, some parameters, we call them. And so polymorphism says, go do it, works in a wide variety of contexts, right? Works in a wide variety of contexts. Let's go back and talk about polymorphism. Ability of similar objects to respond differently to the same message. So, objects, Webster the dog, Annie the dog, bark, or heel. Similar objects, instantiation of class dog. Similar, different size, different shape, a lot of different things, but this message, bark, is polymorphic. Bark to Webster, bark to Annie, two different explicit behaviors. Webster has a higher, or had a higher pitched bark, Annie has a low pitched bark. Different behavior, different actual behavior. Am I making any sense here? When we see this in programming, many of you have gotten a message saying such and such not defined, and then it'll have